Hello, everybody. I'm More Gravity. Let's play chess. Play some blitz chess today. Ew! Oh. Okay. I'm gonna go. First, we're gonna start with why my opponent resigned in this position. And the computer is analyzing the game. Guess we can get started on this. Knight F1 was a good block. The opponent resigns. He's down almost a full rook, and it's. I think when Black plays pawn to E6, Black can follow up with rook. With bishop to D6. And then there's too much pressure on the H2 bishop. Does that work? Not quite. That doesn't quite work because the bishop will always be free to capture the bishop on D6, and of course Black can capture back and retain the material, but doesn't make any more progress than the 4 points of material that Black has already had. I don't know. I'm gonna need the machine on this. That I think, yeah, Black has a rook to a pawn, but White has better positioning maybe. We have a pin on the C6. White has a pin on the C6 pawn. The bishop on H2 is very strong. The knight on F1 is handy to stop the attack or block the attack on White's king at E1. Not sure how I feel about this knight on E2. It seems like he's kind of blocked off by the Black's huge dark squared pawn chain, and the other move would be to go to C3. Maybe that's okay because then you're pressuring the pinned piece a little bit by the pressure on D5, but you're also blocking your second best piece on the board. This is the second best piece for White on the board, probably third best piece overall. So I rather agree with Torch that though Black has 4 points of material advantage, and that's huge, that's more than half the battle here. However, White has certain positional trumps that, yeah, about 2.5, 2.6, something like that. I don't really know about the precision of it. That I think Torch and I are on the same wavelength here. Torch and I are both agreeing on that Black has an advantage, but it's not as large as his 4-point material advantage. I won't play this out against computer. Look, because it's Torch says 2.6, and I'm kind of with it. I don't have much luck finishing games against computer when there's less than a 2.9 advantage pour moi. You know, there's a lot of pieces on the board. There are a lot of different arrangements that aren't strictly. It's not puzzle. There's a word for it. Patterns. This chessboard is an atypical looking chessboard. Right, let's go get rid of all this. This is atypical. A lot of things on this chessboard is atypical. That all the minor and all the rooks in all minor pieces are developed, but the king and the queen are not. I'm not saying anything against the game. Actually, quite different. For the game that this is a little bit weird, kind of outside of our outside of my wheelhouse. Black has this gigantic pawn chain pointing off the board. There's some confusion on how Black might develop. Yeah, right. The knight and the bishop on the queen side. On the king side, the knight and the bishop on the king side are going to have a somewhat of a difficulty becoming developed, and that the rook, I'd say so too, because these guys need to go. and there's a material imbalance. Black, it's kind of like you just plucked or placed the queen on h1, like out of nowhere almost. So this is a strange looking chessboard overall. This is the type of chessboard that would challenge a human players. One of the only advantages human players will have against a computer is pattern recognition. There's really cool structures here, but where have we found in our memory banks a pattern that looks quite like this, right? Nuh-uh. So anyway, I'm a little bit relieved that my opponent resigned here, and for that same reason, I choose not to play this out against the computer on maximum. I just be happy with how it is. Let's take a look at the highlights. Reasonably accurate game, so nobody's really I wasn't all that much more accurate, and the low 70s is that for a game that was quite free willing. Let's go over the game from the start. d4, d5, and then bishop g5. I'm not sure. Well, I should probably consult what is book here. So we're going to try the opening explorer. Opening explorer. No opening explorer. Okay, black to move. Black's second move in this position. Okay. Black is playing h6. Black is playing c6. And black is playing knight f6. And then sometimes c6, h6. h6. C6 is over here, George. Okay, so I had those out of order. Black would play h6. Black would play c6. Black would play knight f6, and black would play f6. These are the top options for black. And then perhaps c5. I'm starting to not like the offering. So it's starting to not like the c5 here. It's just maybe a bit too aggressive for black. Okay. I chose to play h5. No. Okay. I'll go back to the point. So kind of the point of h5 is I want to try to trap white's dark squared bishop. h5 doesn't immediately shout, dark squared bishop in trouble. To some players that won't immediately shout dark squared bishop in trouble, because for starters, h5 is a light colored square and the pawn is attacking a light colored square. It is possible sometimes to ensnare or trap white's dark squared bishop in a position like this. Let's see how. Yeah, my opponent dealt with it immediately with the move h3, giving an eventual h2 square for black's dark squared, for white's dark squared bishop. I think for that reason I decided to, I went through with the plan to just push this bishop back and back, and then have a lot of space on the king side though. Like, do you really want to have all that space to the side to which a player's king castles probably more than 80% of the time? Whenever there's a castle, it's probably 80% of the time to the king's side or something like that. Why would I want all this space here? I don't know. That's maybe I'm not doing so well as a result of that. Torch shows white as 4/10 of a pawn ahead. So we're gonna push the bishop all the way to h2, where frankly it doesn't care so much. That's not a bad square for white's bishop. Look at all these squares the bishop controls or attacks or vies for. This is not a poorly placed bishop at all. It's strong. So which is probably why white is ahead in the evaluation on this side here. Now, knight to c6, simple developing moves. Bishop f5, simple developing moves. There's already the vague vestiges, or not vestiges, already the vague idea of some kind of attack on c2, either to win material via this fork, or to use that threat as a way to force some other concession out of white. And a defend by bishop. There's no need to just start trading and develop white's pieces for him. Instead, it's best if black simply defends his own bishop, and then the threat on the two-move threat, knight to b4 to c2, is renewed. I didn't like bishop b5. It doesn't do anything. I thought pawn to c6 just boots the white bishop away. I mean, I liked it as a player, but in terms of for white, I didn't like bishop b5. Pawn c6 pretty much just boots it out. Torch says this is not the greatest move, but it seems pretty good to me. The only other sensible move, of course, would be knight to c6. Then why do we spend time moving him to b4? And this threat's looming and all that. So, pawn to c6, I like it, even if Torch doesn't. Queenside castles. Just sort of vaguely holding on to this threat on c2. It's still there in some kind of weird back alley or something. I don't know. But bishop takes f5 and queen takes f5 would reignite that threat as a catalyst for material gain for black. A5. I mean, trying to get things going on the edge here. This is a theme with queenside castling. So, yeah, no, it's not so bad actually. What white's doing here is he's going to play a6, of course, continue with this pawn storm, and then black will have to concede something, maybe a horrible weakening of his pawn chain, and then a light squared diagonal piece like this bishop or the queen can capture here. All of a sudden, black's in check. This would be a really bad way for black to proceed, and maybe we're looking at knight a6. What is this? Knight h6. It says this pretty much ignoring the threat. Black should ignore the threat here. Also ignoring the threat, and rook e8. Okay, so all the indications here is that move's good, but not worth paying attention to. So I would say that maybe it's not such a good move, but in the computer size, it doesn't lose anything. By the way, these indications, the check mark here, the question mark here, the check mark here, question mark, the star here, these are all indicated by the computer. These are the same guys who do this calculation, who do this bar. It's not guys, this is the same, computer, right? that do those things. That didn't. That was supposed to be funny. Anyway, um, a6, pawn to a6, the torch, the computer, the AI likes knight to c3. Oh, here, yeah. But for black instead of a6. Black has a better position than a6. Torch is saying, get your pieces developed, or in this case, active. Torch wants black to develop his pieces. Black's pieces, not Torch's pieces. That's a guarantee, by the way. So pawn to a6. It just doesn't develop a piece. Maybe that's mostly what Torch is complaining about with this move. And then isn't my knight's a little bit precarious too? Like a follow up like c3 isn't quite there yet because of the targeting of the target on the d3 white light squared bishop's back. But see, this knight is running out of places to backpedal should he need to. All right. Knight e2. I'll take the long range piece off the board. Torch still doesn't like it. And what did here? I thought, after bishop takes h3, I thought, let's shake the board up a bit. I gained 2 pawns for losing a full bishop. And it seems like there's some targets nearby. Not just the rook. The rook's the main target, of course. When the rook tries to fix himself from being that target, there aren't that many. There are no good squares for him to run. G1 loses the bishop. F1 also loses the bishop. Standing still loses the rook. So by playing queen to g2, we're actually, I think we're forcing king to d2 for white to hold on to material. King to d2, moving the king when there are still minor pieces, both queens, and major pieces on the board. This could be dangerous. I walk through minefields, so watch your head rock. Castles are made out of rocks, and rooks look like castles sometimes. Right, this is continuing with just these. This is straight up material game now. Black is for the better, and my opponent resigns here. What a great game! I had a lot of fun playing this game, and like I said, this chessboard is weird, man. This is one of the weirder chessboards. Some games, some games are more normal. They're fun games in some different way from being weird because they're not all that weird. And this game is like I was saying, totally weird. Fun, great fun. Okay, I think, my friends, that I am going to. Oops. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I'm More Gravity. Have a great night.